glad you guys are here. And the purpose of this Zoom is one thing and one thing only. It's to help you guys grow your net worth. It is a subject that I love discussing because at its core, I know that if you can grow your net worth, there's a lot of great things you can do with that. And you get to decide what that is. And far too many people right now are in a financial position where they're struggling. And I'm not saying anyone here is struggling. I'm just saying if you do the numbers, 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And so that doesn't have to be that way. And that's my purpose in these Zooms, is giving you guys some insight as to what we've done, answering some of your questions. And so for those of you that are new, inside our Facebook group, The Collective, if you're not in there, please make sure you get inside The Collective. There are resources there that are extremely valuable. One of them is our net worth worksheet. So to start this off, I know I was getting some text messages earlier. Does anyone have any questions around the net worth worksheet about what's what and what goes in what blank? Any questions around the net worth? I know, Darlene, maybe you do. So go ahead and unmute your line, Darlene, and ask your question.
Okay, so I filled out all the forms and all the information. I got the totals. So on the bottom it says net worth. Do you take what you have as far as total assets and subtract out your liabilities? That's your net worth?
Yeah, that's exactly what it
Okay.
is. So at the bottom of this page, I just printed out some blank sheets, but at the bottom of this page, it says total assets, right? So you'll have a figure there, total assets. And then as you know, at the bottom of this page, total liabilities. And when you subtract liabilities from asset or vice versa, you come up with a figure. So some people have a negative net worth. That's just the fact of life. Some people have more liabilities than they have assets. And so knowing is the first step. Some people never. So first of all, congratulations to you for even doing the worksheet, because a lot of people will not do the worksheet because they're scared to know the number. Okay. And so make sure you guys do the worksheet so that you know the number. Okay. So any other questions around that? All right. Good, good, good. Okay. So here's what I got: a couple questions for you guys so that we can have some conversation around this and learn. Are you guys putting, so in phase one of my financial phases webinar and what I teach, phase one is that you're putting 10% of your earnings aside to start filling that first bucket. Usually I call it a bucket. The first bucket is like the emergency fund bucket. And I want you guys to have 12 months of money set aside. Some people will say 6 months. I say if you're in a growing, thriving economy, 6 months, I'm okay with that. But when we start to enter a phase that we're in right now, I'm not okay with 6 months. I want you guys to have 12 months in that bucket. And so what is that bucket? That bucket is what you need to live on. And when I say to live on, what you're currently living on, because some people say, well, if things get tough, if it gets hard, then, I'll cut back on this and I'll cut back on this and I'll do this. And that's true. You may do that. But when you do that, when you start cutting back on things, if you're, got to go sell a car that you like, I had to do that. In 2009, I had a Ford F-150 truck that I loved. It was like my dream truck. And I had to go sell the truck. And I bought a Honda CRV. Nothing wrong with Honda CRVs, but I rethered my truck. But I had to sell the truck because it was burning $100 in fuel every other day. Okay. And so I can tell you that every time I got in that Honda CRV, I was mad. I didn't like it. I'd rather have been getting in my truck. So what's that got to do with what we're talking about? I don't want you to, that 12-month figure has to be the figure based on what you're spending now in your current condition. Because if you have to go backwards, it messes with your mindset and you will not be the same person mentally for the next 12 months. You're going to be in a bad place. And as an investor and someone that needs to be looking for, listen, when the bottom falls out, everybody of any real wealth will tell you they gained their wealth through great just turbulent times. The greater the depression, or the greater the drop in the economy, the greater the opportunity for wealth. Every rich person will tell you this. So do you want to have just enough to get by when the bottom falls out? Or do you want to have what they say in the financial world, some dry powder on the side? Dry powder meaning you got some extra cash to capitalize on some things. You want dry powder. You want extra cash on the side. Okay. So when you put this number together, guys, it needs to be 12 months and it needs to be what you're spending now. Okay. So I'm going to put you guys on the hot seat. Darlene, do you have 12 months set aside?
Yeah, I just got back Social Security, so credit cards are paid off. Put money in accounts, separate account savings, and I've got to put in and I'm possibly going to pull my 401k out and put it in something better for myself since I'm not working anymore.
Awesome. Awesome. Congratulations. That's incredible. That's
If you compared 3 weeks ago compared to what it is now, it's went from, totally way under to caught up and able to do my expenses and whatnot.
okay. And tell me, so do you mind sharing what you did over the last 3 weeks?
Actually, I received back Social Security disability. I was able to do that without a lawyer.
Okay.
So, because I've got bad knees and I cannot work anymore.
Yeah.
So they had to pay me. They said, you can take it now, and if it's approved, fine. If not, you got to pay it back. I said, no, I'll wait. So it all came in for like 2 years back of what they owed me. So I was able to put away without going into I was about ready to go in my retirement account again to get through, because I really haven't been doing it much. And, get my business back going again, because I was not allowed to do it with workman's comp.
Yeah.
So I was able, and that's the first thing I did, paid all my credit cards off or down. I'm going to refinance my car, get my credit rating back up, and I'm on course to restart again.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Let me give you a little tip on the car and refinancing. Okay. And I got this in my notes, you guys, and it's not just cars. Never, ever, ever, ever turn short-term debt into long-term debt. Never do that. What do I mean by that? A car is short-term debt. Car loans are 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I think they're doing some 6-year loans too now. Some people will go and get a credit line on their house, take equity out of their house, or when they refi a house, and they'll take a chunk of that refi of the house and send that money to the car, or like they'll change the car out, right? They'll take short-term debt, which was this car, and now instead of paying for the car for 4 or 5 years, now they're gonna be paying for the car for 30. Don't do that. Never ever take short-term debt and turn it into long-term debt. People will go get these refis that are 30 years of interest to go pay off these higher interest rates. There's better ways to do that. Don't do that, because if you do the math, you will get crushed financially doing that.
And at the credit state I'm paying higher level interest. So I want to refinance the interest. Or even if I get rid of the car for a cheaper car.
There you go.
And that's what I'm going to do within the car. I mean, I got stuck paying more because of my credit situation at the time. I needed to get rid of my lease, and they wouldn't hold out for a month where I could have paid it off. But what I want to do is see if I can get a lower rate on it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And just pay extra every month. Pay extra, get it down.
And I love what you said. Maybe you just get a different car. Maybe you get a cheaper car. I did. I went from a nice truck to a Honda CRV. right? Sometimes you got to do that, right? And so excellent. Thank you, Darlene. That is awesome. That is awesome. Okay. Let's go to, let's see, Ernie, will you unmute your mic? So
Hey,
what about you? Do
everybody.
you have 12 months set aside?
Well,
No, we don't.
not really.
Okay.
We
All
have
right.
some
So,
savings, but not.
We got like 6 months.
okay. All right. So share with us what's some of the biggest hurdles in getting there. Like, obviously it's a matter of expenses versus income. I get that. But money's emotional, guys. And I'm not talking just to Ernie right now. Money is emotional. Okay. We buy things on emotion. And mastering those emotions is what it's going to take in order for you guys to get to where you need to be financially. So, let me ask you this. Are you putting 10% aside at the beginning of every month?
So our situation is a little different now because before we moved.
Yep. Sold the
Prior to
business.
moving, I had a business going and I had my home business going. So I had two things coming in.
Yep.
When we left our state, I sold
Yep.
off my main business. And so now
Yep.
I'm building my home business.
Yeah.
The income's not there yet. So
Yeah.
it's kind of different.
Yeah.
That
Okay, so
answers it.
here's what everyone needs to hear. If you're earning $10 a month, you need to put $1 away.
Okay.
Because it is zero to do with the dollar amount. It has everything to do with the action and the behavior.
Interesting. Okay.
As soon as people start treating $10 like $1 million, you're good. Like, you'll never have $1 million if you treat $10 like $10. You need to treat $10 like $1 million. Like, if someone gave you $1 million, you would be like, woof, okay, woo, what am I going to do with this? Like, what? Whoa, we got to take this as serious. Someone gives you $10, you might just go buy lunch. You have to start treating, not you, the group, everyone. You have to treat $10 like $1 million.
So when do we put we don't have any debt except for a student loan that I have. That's pretty much our only debt. We have a credit card we use, but we pay it off. We use it, pay it off so we can get the mileage.
But we can stop doing that.
But yeah, we can totally stop doing that. But
the behavior of the savings, the behavior of putting 10% aside is way more important than the mileage and the points.
Okay.
all right.
Cool.
Because what are you going to do with the mileage and the points? You're saving money, but you're only saving so that you can go on a trip or on a flight. And so, listen, put the 10% away.
Okay.
All right.
Put and it doesn't matter if it's $1 or $10. Put it away. Okay.
Okay.
And when you put it away, do not put it in a checking account. A checking account, you will burn your money in the checking account. You have to put it in a separate account. Create a separate account just for this fund. Okay. And I'll tell you guys, I did a little bit of research just today. You can go online, and I'm not going to tell you which ones to use because for one, guys, I'm not a licensed investor. That's not my background. Okay. This is purely educational stuff here tonight, and just what I would suggest do, right? Or what I do. But I went and did some research on these accounts so that you guys can go and get set up. Most of them are free to set up. Some of them as little as $1 in the account, and they'll give you the account. Some are $100, some are $50. But right now, Citizen Bank is giving 4.25% on a savings account. Citizens Bank is paying 4.25%. You know what your bank is probably paying you right now? Less than 0.1%. 0.01 is what most banks are paying. 0.01. Okay. So Citizens is paying 4.25. American Express has a savings account that's paying $3.75%, just under 4%. Capital One is paying 3.4%. Those rates are as of this morning. Okay. So when you set up an account, Now make sure there's a couple things to check. Make sure, you know, they don't need a bunch of money in the account. All right. $100 is fair, 50 bucks. That's kind of normal, right? But check the fees, because if you set this account up and they have all these fees, then what good is the interest rate? They're eating you alive in the fees. So make sure there's an account that has little to no fees, has a minimum amount of money that you can put, and you can find a bunch of those between 3 and 4%. Okay. The higher you get, like when you start getting into the 4% and the 4.25, be very careful with the fees and all the different fine print, but they'll spell it all out for you. Okay. So set up the extra account and put 10% in every month. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else finding it hard to put the 10% around? This is the most important topic of the night, by the way. Is anyone else not putting 10% aside? Let me help you. Raise your hand or unmute or something. There you go, Cheryl, go ahead.
Is the 10% taken from my take home pay? Is that what I take it from?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. After you pay taxes, because you're talking about a W-2 from an employer?
Yeah.
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 Yep. So you pay taxes, they give you the money, right? And then whatever that is, you need to take 10% and pay yourself first. You pay yourself before the electric bill. You pay yourself before the phone bill. Pay yourself first. And then make the adjustments necessary to pay for the car and pay for the electricity and because so what are those this is the emotional part. So what do you think those adjustments might look like, guys? If you pay yourself the 10% first, there's going to have to be some take from somewhere else. So where do you think that comes from? Comes from eating out at restaurants,
in the morning.
comes from shopping, comes from Starbucks runs. It comes from maybe cable television. It comes from doing, like, just this week, my wife and I saved over $1,000 on car insurance because we went to get another car insured. And in doing so, she started asking us some questions and we're like, about the deductible. And my wife was like, whoa, 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 we don't need a deductible that low. So we raised our deductible and saved almost $2,000. Like, it's like poof, free money. So don't spend the $2,000. Guess what I do with that money? You invest it. You invest it. But most people are spending, like, they're like, well, I can't do 10%. But yet they still have cable TV. They still go to Starbucks. They're still eating out expensive food. They're still drinking alcohol, you know, doing, or maybe smoking cigarettes, or all these addictive type things that they have control over.
Yep.
That's why I said it's emotional. It's emotional. Money's emotional. Okay. So good question, Cheryl.
Thank you.
One thing I would like to do, and on just kind of a side note, Cheryl, do you have a corporation set up yet?
No.
Okay. On our next Zoom that we do, we're gonna talk about corporations. I want you to go in the collective. Just today, I pinned a post in the collective with my attorney that sets up my corporations, and I want you to go watch that interview. Go watch the interview in the collective. It's in the pinned post of my attorney. Okay, Tyler Young. We talk corporations, how to set them up, how much they should cost. Listen, Cheryl, I can save you probably $7,000 a year if you'll set the corporation up. The corporation will cost you less than $1,500 to set it up. By the way, you can write that off. That $1,500 you can write off. And so by setting a corporation, you're paying taxes, you're paying W-2 taxes. Let's get some of that back.
And that's for my business. For you talking about for my LifeVantage business?
Absolutely, for your LifeVantage business.
Definitely.
Let's set up the corporation. Let's get you back $5,000 or $6,000 and put that in your bucket. Because I know you're paying $5,000 or $6,000 to the IRS. I know you are. So let's pull some of that back by setting up a corporation. You good? You want to do that?
Yep, definitely.
You want to save 6 or 7 grand?
Yep.
Okay. Go watch that interview I did. Okay. And then by the time between now and then, go on YouTube and educate yourself about how you can save taxes by owning a corporation. Okay. Go to the university, go to YouTube University, watch 10, 15 hours of tax strategy in corporations. Will you do that for me? Will you watch 10 hours of YouTube for me and not goofball stuff? Like go watch specifically tax deductions by owning a business. Do it 10 hours. You'll be blown away with what you learn on YouTube. And it's usually pretty accurate stuff. Okay. Do that. And then I'll help you with setting the corporations up. Any questions that we maybe have just spurred in your mind? I'm going to tell you guys, every one of you need a corporation. Okay. In phase 1, I'll come to you, AJ, in a second. In phase 1 of the 3 phases, it's one of those things is starting a business. Like you need to own a business. Okay. And you get to decide how to set it up. Don't set up a C Corp. Set up a corporation that's classified as an S or LLC, but S that flows back to you personally. Go watch that interview with my lawyer. Okay. AJ?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
The question that came to my mind, if I go or we go and open up a corporation and being our businesses in our personal names, will corporate allow us to change it to our corporate name, or is that beneficial to do that, or do we don't?
Yeah, from a tax standpoint, it doesn't matter. Okay. But they will for $25 with the company, you can change the name to the corporation and they'll pay you directly to that corporation. But when you file as an S corporation, everything flows back to you personally anyway. Even though it goes to the corporation, it still flows back to you personally. As a C Corp, it does not. Money goes into the C Corp and it stays there and it's taxed as a C Corp. But as an S Corp, it flows back to you personally. And so I'm not a lawyer, but I've done this long enough to know that there's a lot of advantages for you guys to have an S Corp. A lot of advantages.
Thank you.
Yep. Every one of you need to have a corporation, guys. Every one of you. You are giving the government between $5,000 and $8,000 of your hard-earned money if you don't own a corporation. You can do the tax return yourself. It may cost you $500 a year to have someone do the tax return for you, because I would imagine would be a pretty simple return. If someone charges you more than $1,000 to do the return, I think they're taking advantage of you. And even if they did charge you $1,000, that's deductible too. Their fees, their professional fees are deductible. When I get charged from my attorney, my company pays for that. I don't pay for that. My company pays for that. All right. Zaneta, you got a question or comment?
So you said an S. You said
You're
you said
muted.
an S Corp or an LLC, right?
Well, so
You said an
I have
S
an
Corp or an
LLC, but
LLC, right?
I have an LLC, but then you have to decide how it wants to be classified as an S or a C, right? So I have an LLC, a limited liability company, but then you have to classify how you want to be taxed as an S that flows to you personally, or a C that stays within the corporation and the monies get taxed as a corporation. So you're freezing up. You're okay. There you go. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Yep. Mike?
Hey, Brandon, and maybe you'll get into this the next time when you talk about corporations, but when you earn investment property, would you recommend setting up each property in its own LLC?
Great question. Depends on the level of liability. So when I owned a trailer park, Lynette and I owned a trailer park, it was in its own corporation because there was a lot of liability there, right? You've got high risk in Florida of fire because a lot of folks in those units will run little space heaters and they overload the electricity and there's fires. And so if you've got a high risk property, and then you've got 3 or 4 of your other properties that's owned by the same company, not if, but when you get sued, they get all the properties if you lose. But if they have just one corporation for that property, they can't touch the other properties. That makes sense?
Right,
Does that
yeah.
answer your question?
Yeah, stuff that I've read and educated, I've heard people say that set that up. But then when it comes to financing, how does that come into play if like that LLC doesn't have financial history or backup?
Well, usually, like I know for us, the banks are going to the banks rarely let you get money based on a corporation's funds. They're going to make someone sign personally for it.
Gotcha.
And so then you just have to show them, show them everything, give them some blood, your right arm, and then maybe they'll give you a loan.
Right. Because the stuff that I read, it was like, you want to separate each property. And then the formula was buy it in your name with the mortgage in your name and do a quick claim deed. But then I had an attorney tell me that you run the risk of invoking due upon sale clause if you do something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So Lynette and I have 2 vacant pieces of property that's owned by one corporation, but it's vacant property.
Right.
Right. And
The
so
liability
we've
is
taken
low.
one step further and we put a lot of insurance on that property. So what Lynette and I were advised to do is have enough liability insurance that if we get sued, they'll go after that and not after us.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Because that's what attorneys do. When there's someone that's injured, they just look where the easy money is. And if there's an insurance policy, that is easy money.
Right. Yeah, because as great as it is to try and build it, you want to protect it too. So
You have to. Yeah. So great question. And so I would, for me, Mike, like I would probably never put more than 3 houses in one corporation. Like every third house, I would probably, and maybe these days, depending on what size house. I mean, if you're doing a half million or $250,000, $750,000, $1 million property, depending on what you're buying, I would only have that in one corporation.
right.
I wouldn't have 3 $500,000 houses in one corporation. I wouldn't do it.
Too much risk.
Too much risk.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions that we're going through some of this stuff right now?
Brendan, I have a question. When you're doing the savings, should you make a special account for like events? Like the first thing when I got my settlement, the first thing I did was I booked my airlines, my hotel, my convention stuff. Should you put a little money away each week so that by time convention comes, you make sure you have that money for you?
You should absolutely have a personal development budget. Lynette and I do. You need to decide at the beginning of the year what's your personal development budget. For some of you, that will include airfare and hotels, maybe courses you're going to buy. Be careful buying courses. Like as I said, there's a lot of great stuff on YouTube. There's a lot of great podcasts. I'm going to give you guys a podcast tonight to make sure you start listening to. But yeah, that should be all factored into your budget. And paying yourself. And you don't, hey, listen, here's a little tax tip. Personal development is not tax deductible. Continued education is. If you classify it as personal development, it is not deductible. If you classify it as continued education, it's deductible. Ask your accountant. I'm not an accountant, but ask them. Okay. So again, Darlene, or actually that was to Cheryl, if you're flying somewhere and doing hotels, you are paying with after-tax dollars. If you own a corporation, you get to pay for that before it gets taxed. So if your corporation loses money, like maybe you spend more than you make, right? All of that loss is 100% tax deductible. You never pay a penny. Like with your online business, your LifeVantage business, you would never pay a penny of taxes if there's a loss. And in fact, if there's a loss, it carries over to your W-2 tax that you've given to the government. And they offset that. As well as any vacation you go on, if you make an effort and document to recruit people into your online business, now that flight, the food, the hotel, go talk to your accountant, but I bet you it's deductible. Before tax, not after tax.
If you have a corporation.
If you will go do a corporation. And you can do it online in a day. Okay. So any other questions on these lines of conversation? I probably can help you guys more on tax deductions and saving money that way than any other way right now, but
Hey, Brandon, this is Lynn, and I'm sorry I'm not on camera, but I do have a question for you on that subject.
Yep.
I just asked my accountant for my LifeVantage business if I should incorporate it, and she said no. She said, in making over 100,000 every year, you don't need to do that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Now my salon is incorporated, but my LifeVantage business isn't, and that almost seems opposite of what you're saying.
yeah, I would get another opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
I would talk to a couple of accountants. Just network with your friends and say, hey, are you using accountant? Maybe get their name and then message them, email them and say, hey, would you mind taking a deduction question? Can I ask you a question? And see. I think my accountant has been on, but I'm going to bring my accountant onto one of these Zooms really soon. I'm not gonna be able to do it before April 15th, nor would he take the Zoom, but I can assure you that whether you're making money or not, you should own a corporation, much less 100 grand.
Okay. I just thought that was interesting. And yeah, so thank you.
I would say that rule may apply if you're classifying as a C Corp. Because it's not really, doesn't really make sense to be a C Corp unless you've got significant revenue there, because you get taxed twice. Like the corporation gets taxed, and then if you ever pull a paycheck out, like you get paid, then you've got to pay tax on that again. Like, so you own the company and it gets taxed, and then you get a paycheck and it gets taxed again. It's nasty. Okay. And so if you have a C Corp, you got to be really careful how you take money out of the company. Now, the big companies, Apple is C Corp, Google is C Corp. You also know that those guys have most of their money offshore and they never pay tax.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Question.
AJ.
2 positions, husband and wife. Would you open up two LLC? Would you join together under one?
No. My Lynette and I have one corporation that we take all of our online business to.
So the 2 positions, just umbrella them under one.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Now, what you would have to do is you would have to write that into the articles you incorporate your corporation, right? Like the corporation would have to be the one that gets those funnels of income. But yeah.
Okay.
All right. So here's what I want to do for the last couple minutes here. I've shared with you some high yield savings accounts. I've told you to never, ever convert short-term debt into long-term debt. Don't refinance a house and then pay off a car. Like, don't do that, because now you're paying 30 years on the car. Don't do that. Definitely don't refinance a house and put a pool in. Don't do that. Don't do that. If you have, we all made that mistake once. We talked about the 10%, the podcast. Write this podcast down. It's called The Wealth Ability Show. The Wealth Ability Show. Lynn, you really need to, all of you do, but specifically because of your last question. The guy that is the host, his name is Tom Wheelwright. He is the accountant to Robert Kiyosaki and a bunch of the guys in the Rich Dad, Poor Dad Network. Okay, his name is Tom Wheelwright. He talks about a wide range of things, but one of his last podcasts is one of the best ones he's ever done. He had a doctor that he was interviewing that's become a real estate investor because the doctor wanted passive income. Okay. And so being a doctor is not passive. If you're not taking care of patients, you're not getting paid. And he wanted more free time. So Tom Wheelwright, The Wealth Ability Show, start listening to that podcast, guys. It's a really, really good podcast. So any other questions before we wrap up this, Cheryl?
And you said on YouTube, what is the training to look for?
Just go in there and look for
Setting up-
tax, to start in the search through tax benefits of owning a corporation.
Okay. And you said there's something posted in this group.
Oh, inside this group, in the favorite post or pinned post at the top, you'll see an interview I did with a Tyler Young. He's my attorney. It's about a 30 or 45-minute interview I did with my attorney, asking him a lot of these questions. He's the guy I go to set corporations up and structure things.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. We're going to keep building a robust database inside the collective. There's some really cool things that we're doing with the collective right now. Later this month, I'm bringing in my investment guys, Wayne Barber. We're going to do a live interview with him this month, and we're going to be discussing some really exciting things we're going to be opening up to the people inside the collective. I'm going to be giving you, and with Wayne's help and partnership, we're going to give you access to something called the Living Balance Sheet. It is a website, but also an app that every day I can open my phone up, and all I have to do is touch a couple buttons, and with a touch of a couple buttons, I can know my net worth to the penny. I'm looking at it right now. And we're going to make this available to you guys. Okay. We're going to give you access to the Living Balance Sheet, the website, the app. Of course, it's something that you have to do through Wayne, and he'll be explaining it. There's no strings attached. You guys have to understand that I'm doing this purposely to increase your net worth. My wife and I make enough commissions with our other businesses. We are not trying to gain anything financially with the collective. It is purely educational. And then if people want to ask questions, we try and answer those questions to the best of our ability. So Wayne will be on later this month. For those of you that are actually attending our live event, the Castaway with the Cunninghams in May, Wayne is going to be in the room with us. He's coming in live to do some educating. And Wayne can tell you things that I can't tell you because he has all the certifications and legal documents. Like he's got all that stuff. So he can say things that I can't say.
I do have one more question.
All right.
Okay, so I'm fixing to be 59 and a half. That means I can withdraw from my 401k.
It does.
I have to pay the taxes. Would that be wise?
Depending on which one you set up, yes, probably so.
Would it be wise to take that money, borrow money from there to pay off my credit cards?
I would need to know more information about the debt there. I think that I'd like to do something that we did with Mike. I'd like, depending on the amount of debt, I'd like to go get you a credit card that has 0 interest for 18 months, pay the debt off that way, and then you pay that debt off with no interest. So every penny that you're paying, if you're paying $500 or $1,000 a month, it goes 100% to principal instead of you taking some of that money and just paying a credit card off. I'd rather you leverage someone else's money. Always try and use someone else's money if you can.
Okay.
Okay. Go back and watch that interview that we did with Mike and Gary Stern. Watch it closely, and then go do some due diligence around 0 interest credit cards. I know you can find something that's around 18 months, maybe even 2 years. That's the way how we go.
Hey, Brandon, that Bank of America card that I did, they still have that offer for 21 months.
There you go. Bank of America's got a card, 21 months, 0 interest.
Okay. Thank y'all.
You're welcome.
Brandon.
So here's the thing, guys. Know your net worth. And when we check back in here next month, we're going to do this again next month. When we check back in next month, I want every one of you to unmute your microphone, and I want you to tell me if your net worth went up or down in the last 4 weeks. Deal? Know your net worth. When you log back in a month from now, you don't have to check it every day. That's a little neurotic. You don't even have to check it every month, but I want you guys to get in the habit of knowing your numbers monthly. Okay. For sure every 6 months, but I want this group to start knowing their numbers monthly. And all we got to do is this: when we come in next time, we just be like, hey, is your net worth up or down? And you can just do this, or you can do this. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is say, all right, tell me what you did to get it here. Like, what did you do? Did your house go up in value, or did you make some moves financially? If it's this, did your house go down in value? Did your investments go down in value? Let's talk about it, because that's how you guys are going to learn. Okay. All right. This has been great. I hope you guys enjoyed it. The best thing you guys can do is educate yourself. Take some time every week to become financially sound and understanding. Ask lots of questions. And if you're getting value, add people to this group, because that's how we can help a lot of people with impact. So you guys have a good night. Talk to you later.